I'm Nellie.
And I'm Rachie.
And this is
Lit or Misses.
Misses, yes.
Is there a reason you're wearing that mask?
Well, the movie that we saw.
Oh, right. That's why we're here today. We're here to talk about the movie 5 Feet Apart.
Yes, no, but seriously, I actually do need this. So please know that I'm not making fun of, like, cystic fibrosis or patients who are afflicted with the condition. I do need
Now, if I were wearing it...
Yes.
Alright, so we're here to talk about 5 Feet Apart, which recently came out about a month ago.
Yes.
Starring Haley Lou Richardson, Cole Sprouse, and Moises Arias. You may have heard the last two names. One of them was Cody Martin from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
And now he's Jughead.
Yeah, if you thought that he turned from boy cute to cute,
Yes.
then you should look at Moises Arias, who's gotten tall and bald.
And, gay.
Yeah, well, in this movie anyway. In real life, I am not so sure.
Yes.
I should check.
Apparently. Now, 5 Feet Apart is about two teenagers who are afflicted with cystic fibrosis, which is, for those of you who don't know, is a disease that affects your lungs. And what most people know about it is that it can cause a lot of like mucus and sputum buildup in the lungs, which causes bacterial infections and makes it easier for people to catch diseases that do afflict the lungs. And the average lifespan is not very long. I think it's still somewhere up in the early to mid 20s.
And people with cystic fibrosis can get a lung transplant, healthier lungs that work better, but even so, that only extends the lifespan by about 5 years.
Yes, even organ transplants are not always a viable solution, which is very unfortunate. This movie actually was dedicated to, what was her name?
Claire Wineland.
Yes, Claire Wineland, who was a patient who had cystic fibrosis, and I believe that she had a documentary on YouTube, but unfortunately she passed away after suffering a stroke from a lung transplant.
Yeah, and the director and actors had worked closely with her in trying to get the accuracy in terms of the medical aspects of the film.
Yes, as much as you can for, moviedom. As much artistic license will be allowed in situations like this. Obviously, it's not always going to be completely medically accurate. You have to give some leeway to just the confines of what a movie is.
Of course, what they were really focusing on was the 6 feet apart rule that patients with cystic fibrosis, they especially can't come into contact with each other as it could risk in death. Which, as you can see, standing 6 feet apart from each other can be very difficult to work with someone. Are you even in frame? Like, I think you gotta come more this way.
Yeah,
of course, I gotta step more this way to keep 6 feet.
Yeah, let's just go back to where we were.
Yeah.
So I actually did a little bit of research before we saw this.
Which is good.
Yes. I think this is a movie where you kind of have to sort of think on it. I know that I certainly wanted to sort of gather my thoughts and see what patients who do have cystic fibrosis or people who have relatives who have cystic fibrosis thought about this movie and the portrayal of the disease and how accurate things are.
Of course, at the time, we were too busy bawling our eyes out to really think about that.
Yes, yes, because honestly, I did really like this movie. I liked it a lot. I don't know what this new influx of sick teen/sick young adult films came from. I blame John Green and The Fault in Our Stars because
I've actually never seen that.
I haven't. I mean, I have. There was Midnight Sun starring Bella Thorne, and about how she had a disease where she could not go outside in the sun because she was allergic to it, but it was actually a remake of a very good Japanese movie, which I highly recommend if you are curious about that sort of thing. So is this like a new genre? Like,
There's also the first movie and then made it to a musical, Bubble Boy, about the boy who was born with no immune system and so was always living in a bubble. Of course, that was really more like another take on Rapunzel with the overprotective mother not wanting
that one
her child
Seinfeld
to go.
episode with Kramer in the bubble, walking around New York, I think.
Yeah, except Bubble Boy actually ended happily.
Yes.
When it turned out spoiler alert, he didn't have a problem with going outside at all, that he had developed an immune system when he was 8. Of course, that was not meant to be medically accurate at all. It was meant to be a comedy, yes.
I asked my mom about this because she actually used to be a respiratory therapist when she was nursing, and she said that she'd never heard of the 6 feet apart rule, so maybe it's like a new thing that they implemented or something. But she did say that all of the patients that she had worked with, they had so much sputum that they would have to cough up. They all had curly hair and they all had curly eyelashes. You can catch so many different kinds of diseases, so many bacterial infections and things like that. And before they had those vests that you see in the movie that kind of vibrate and like get all the crud out of your lungs, they would have to like clap on your back. Just using your hands, you create a little air pocket between your hand and the back, and that vibrates sort of, and that like loosens up all of the nasty stuff in your lungs that you have to cough up. I was surprised that a lot of, I'd say like maybe like 70% of the medications that they showed on screen were accurate to the drugs that cystic fibrosis patients use. They have a nebulizer, which I have. They use face masks to keep out like bacteria, other like, allergens and things like that, again, which I also have. Medications, which I also have. I do not have cystic fibrosis, but I do have very scarred, very bad lungs from being a micropreemie. So there were parts of this movie that I felt very, I'd say maybe validated with, and it was nice to see things like that on screen, represented, and things like that. And there is a line that you have to be careful, because, there are people out there, obviously, with this condition, and I understand why people would get upset that it wouldn't be completely medically accurate. But at the same time, like, it's a movie, you're going to have to take some artistic license with things like this,
Of course, the worst thing I've ever had was acid reflux, so I have nothing to add at this point.
You can't contribute to the party.
Sorry.
So let's get into the actual meat of the story, which is the relationship between
Stella and Will. Stella, played by Haley Lou Richardson, and Will, who's played by Cole Sprouse. They are the romantic leads in this movie, and both of them have cystic fibrosis, and despite that, they fall in love when they meet in the hospital.
Yes, despite not being able to physically touch each other, because Cole Sprouse's character has some strain of bacteria that's really dangerous.
They can't even hold hands. I mean, she does wear a glove, which is like
a loophole.
Very thin loophole.
Yes.
I don't know if that actually would work.
And they still stood like 5 feet apart, and their hands were like this.
That's what this title comes from. 5 feet apart. Like, they can't stand within 6 feet apart of each other. But Stella, she wants to take that risk of just 1 foot. Like,
yes,
1 foot's all the difference for them.
Yes, she's like, God damn it, I'm gonna probably die when I hit my early 20s, but I'm gonna take back as much of my normal life as I can, as much as a regular person can. 1 foot.
Yeah, I'm taking back 1 foot cystic fibrosis.
Yes, and I honestly, I loved that. I thought it was really nice. So what did you think of the individual characters? Well, some people might be wondering why this is under lit or miss. It's because this was a book originally. Unfortunately, I could not find it, so I can't really compare the two.
Yeah, it was written by Mickey Daughtry, Rachel Lippincott, and Tobias Ian Conis. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. Yeah, I did not read the book either, but I looked it up. The movie itself is almost word for word from the book, except for the ending. And yeah, huge spoiler alert for book.
Spoiler right here.
Yeah. Yeah, in the movie, it ends with him transferring out of the hospital after she's gotten a lung transplant, to save her life. But in the book, it ends when them meeting a few months later at the airport, and Stella is looking much healthier while Will is looking sicker. And there, the endings, it's more open-ended.
Yes, I think it's more implied that he will eventually die off-screen before Stella, because the treatment that he is under is not currently working for him, and so all of the life is just sucked out of Will. He does not care. He's one of those characters who does not give a shit about anything until, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl comes in, but she's not really a Manic Pixie Dream Girl, or at least not the typical one.
Yeah, and their names are actually symbolic too. Like Stella means star, and
Yes.
she is obsessed with these lights in a Rapunzel way. These lights that she sees from her hospital from the city, and she calls them stars. Well, she obviously knows they're not stars. And
Yes. And her sister, she made that picture whenever she would go under the anesthesia. She would see it, and the stars would come up.
And they
really nice.
look like the veins of lungs, and
Yes.
on a starry background, which was really beautiful.
It really was.
Yeah, and Will, well, I think it's kind of obvious that it's meant to be the will to live. That's really obvious, actually.
And then there's Poe. Not sure why.
Yeah,
if
played by
there was-
Moises Arias,
Yes.
Poe. All I can think is Edgar Allan Poe, who's related to death a lot. I mean, in his stories,
that's
his
true.
stories, there are a lot of people who would get sick and die and then come back. Obviously, not the last part.
Yes.
Another big spoiler. Like, I knew that someone was going to die by the end of the movie. I thought it was going to be one of the romantic leads. It turned out to be the super lovable gay best friend who also has cystic fibrosis. Is Stella's best friend, because they've been in the hospital whenever they got sick, and the best friend that she never got to hug.
Because she couldn't, and it was honestly very heartbreaking.
Yeah, I did not expect for him to die. I didn't want him to die because he was so excited, like he was going to visit his boyfriend and his mom. But the next day, after he announces that, he's gone.
And they threw a party for Will and everything.
I know, his birthday party. It's like 18th birthday. Like every birthday like it's your last, and he made all that food and just
did all that effort. They snuck everyone into the hospital.
And the truffles.
I forgot about the truffles. That's another thing that you actually brought it to my attention just now. This movie doesn't really have, the typical beats of a movie like this, like a huge climax. I mean, there are a couple points where things get really tense, but the ending turns out okay. I mean, it's not happy.
We were crying like crazy. We were crying like crazy. Like, you can't call an ending that emotional okay.
Yeah, I love how everyone in the hospital was just like, hey, she just had major invasive surgery. Let's stress her out and tell her that Will is leaving.
That was kind of
in the saddest way ever.
Yeah. I mean, if there was a climax, it was definitely
that ice shit.
Yes, when Stella and Will were going out, she decided, I'm done just living for my medications. I haven't been living because of my medications. I'm gonna go see those lights I've always wanted to see. And they're walking together. It's night. It's winter.
They make snow angels, and then Will looks over to Stella, and he's like, Stella? And she's like, yes. He's like, it's cold. It's so great. And then they make their way back to the hospital, and then Stella gets a call or a notification on her cell phone that there's a pair of lungs that are that match and that she can get the transplant. And Will is like, Stella, we gotta go back to the hospital. And she's like, nah, fam, I'm gonna stay here on the ice. And
I'm gonna go see the lights. And we were just screaming at them like, get off the ice!
Go back to the hospital!
It didn't help that, they had the trailer for that other movie before this. Where the kid fell through the ice. I forget what it's called, but I'm like,
it's like,
someone's gonna fall through the ice.
One of those PureFlix films that are like,
yeah, and they just had so many fake outs of them falling through the ice.
Yeah,
when she does,
like 10 fake outs. There was one fake out with Poe in the beginning, and then there was like, and then he died for real, and then there was like,
the nurse thought it was like just he accidentally pressed the button again, but no.
And then there was Stella, and she was like on the ice, and then there was no sound, and then she just like went through the hole or something.
Which I don't think would happen in real life. There's gotta be a cracks or at least a splash when that happens.
Yeah.
Like you don't just silently fall through the ice.
Yeah, and the girls
it's not
behind
quicksand.
us. Yeah, and the girls behind us were like, what the heck? What just happened?
Oh my god, that was a tense moment because
he
had to go in after her, and his breathing's not very good itself, and she is not breathing, and so he has no choice but to give her CPR, which will risk her life, but her life's already in danger.
Yeah.
So it was a big risk he had to take. And that moment is pretty sad because it's the only time it's the closest thing they have to a kiss ever. And one, she's not awake for it, and two, he can't enjoy it because her life is on the line.
Yes.
There's nothing really romantic about it. It's a life-threatening situation.
But the ending so Will has this thing throughout the movie where he draws people, or like he asks Stella if he can draw her, and every single time he draws something, it's in a really, over the top, like cartoony sort of way.
Mm-hmm, like the big faces and just
exaggerated,
making people look ridiculous.
Yeah. But then at the end, when they show her the notebook with all these drawings, and they're actually legit drawings of her.
Yeah, the detailed sketches
of her and Poe at his birthday.
And in the drawings, they're touching.
Yeah.
It's like showing in the way, like, we may not have been able to touch physically, but you've touched my heart.
Oh.
That
oh my god. I feel like such a girl right now. God. You're right. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I teared up so much over one movie. Like, it actually may have been Pixar's Coco, but still, that was a long time ago. The last movie I probably cried at was like Inside Out, but this is
and that was like 2015.
Yeah.
Wow. So, what I liked about this movie, from the perspective of an asexual woman who is not really into the physical aspects of a relationship that much, this was really refreshing, because what you mostly see in romances these days is you got these two insanely beautiful people, and a guy with really ripped abs, and depending on the rating of the movie, they will meet and they will kiss and probably have sex. It's all about, the beauty and the physicality of it, and you kind of forget why they're in love in the first place.
Yeah.
But here, like, in the situation where, the characters are not asexual themselves, they made that clear.
They are basically forced into a situation where they have to.
Yeah, they cannot touch. They can't even hold hands, which is heartbreaking for me too, because I like holding hands with the people I like. And it showed us that love goes beyond the physical aspects of people, and in this case, they had to do with what they had in common, and they had a huge thing in common. But
yep.
Yeah, their illness and their experience with that, and also not just the things they had in common, but the way they comforted each other, like the scene where she's going into the operation and he puts on the mask and the
he sneaks into the hospital room.
Yeah, and sings her the song that her late sister used to sing to her, like, I love you, a bushel and a peck, and what the heck is a barrel and a heap?
Did you see that tweet that Cole Sprouse made? And it was like, I got through an entire Disney career without having to sing, and now in this Riverdale episode, I think it was for Carrie or Heathers or something.
He didn't sing in Carrie, he sang in the new Heathers one, and it was just for a little bit.
It was like, just not today, and that's it.
yeah, and just a little bit in the 17. Actually, he did sing in Zack and Cody, when they had that huge hotel number, like,
oh yeah,
and come and stay at the Tipton. I guess he means not like really sing, but yeah, and then he sings Bushland,
and then he sings this.
Yeah.
But another thing that Rachie brought up that I really liked was that these characters, while they're not unattractive, they did look really sick. Like, they had bags under their eyes, they had like their mouths were like tinted blue, they were really thin, which is another thing of cystic fibrosis patients. Are usually very, very thin, and they have, scars from all the surgeries and procedures and things like that, feeding tubes, intubation, things like that.
In fact, when they were at the pool on their date and they had this 5-foot pole in between them and they had their feet dipped in the pool, which is like as close to touching as they could really get. And Stella was saying, I've actually never had sex because I'm afraid that someone will see my scarred and tubed body and just
freak out.
Yeah. And so to show their trust with each other, they both strip down to the underwear and their scars and tubes are all revealed, but it's not a problem for them because, well, one, they're both used to it, and two, it's not their attractiveness it's not the reason that they love each other. And I'm not really usually one for nudity in movies, but here it was
like had a purpose.
It had a purpose, and it's just beautiful because they trust each other to expose themselves, and also the respect for each other. They're not like, oh man, you're so fine. it was a sweet moment.
Yeah. Man, I thought I got over like my crush on Cole Sprouse when I was like 12, but this movie just like swooped in,
I know,
smacked me in the face with a 5-foot.
I definitely was partial to Cody and of Zack and Cody. What is Dylan Sprouse doing these days? I haven't seen him in anything in a while.
The last time I think I saw him in something is when he was cosplaying as a future Trunks from Dragon Ball Z with his girlfriend. It was really? Like Dara from Naruto.
Wow. Well, it's better than, a drug addiction, which happens to most child stars these days.
Yeah, I liked seeing that Cole and what's his name, Moises?
Yeah, Moises Arias.
Yeah, that they're doing well in their careers, and I hope that they go places, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and seems like they haven't really lost their acting ability, which also sometimes happens with child stars. Like, they will be good at playing a child, but when they're grown up, they haven't lost their talent, and at least they are not like lying in a ditch somewhere, addicted to heroin or something, which has happened to child stars.
So there's a theme in this movie about like the sort of mix between selfishness and selflessness, particularly when it comes to like your significant other.
Yeah, because let's face it, we're always saying that, love is about being selfless, which is true, but if you're 100% selfless with the one you care about, then, well, you're never going to do anything with them.
For yourself.
Yeah, like, you're never going to, like, pursue them or try to get together with them, like, if you're not thinking about, because you want to be with them, and so that is kind of being selfish in a way, and not that's necessarily bad, but there is a balance between, being selfish and being selfless. Like, obviously you want to do things for yourself, and you want to make this significant other happy and respect their space, but yeah, in this case, showing the extreme of being totally selfish with the one you love and being totally selfless, they were trying to get that balance, but...
Yeah. Do you think that Stella was kind of being selfish, or maybe at the very least pushy, with constantly checking up on Will and making sure that he was doing his routine and taking his medication when it's like, hey, it's none of your business. But I understand where
Yeah.
she's coming from.
Well, in the beginning, it wasn't really about her caring about him that much. It was,
yeah, like a need for control.
yeah, which had stemmed from losing her sister. You know, how they had expected Stella to die at any moment, but hadn't expected her sister to die while cliff diving.
Yes.
Yeah, they weren't prepared for that, and so Stella not having control over her sister dying and not having control over her own condition, like she just controls where she can.
Yes, and that is very legitimate, having like OCD tendencies stemming from trauma that you had no control over, so you have to gain back some of that control is very legit, and I'm glad that they put that in there. And it's not just like, oh, everything has to be straight. No, it's, I have to make sure that this is happening at this time and that these people are doing these things. And even Will points out, he's like, it's just because of, like, it's just because your sister died, and he just up and says it
Yeah.
with all of the subtlety of, like, you know, a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. She, you know, in the beginning, I just loved the filmography, like how we set the whole scene up, like, and she's just doing her routine, and she's reading about life and death.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think I'd actually read some of those books in that Death, Dying, and Other Opportunities class I took in college. Yes, that's what it was called. It was a
Yeah.
religious studies class.
And she had chakras on the board.
Yeah. She had the poster of, okay, I forget the official name, but it's like the Diamond Vehicle Buddhism,
Yeah.
which was an interesting choice to have a poster of, because those Buddhists believe that the way to achieve enlightenment and be detached from all worldly things such as, you know, sex is to engage in them and then become detached because of it. So they will engage in like this ritualistic sex,
Things like
which
that.
was an interesting thing to have for someone who
Cannot touch another.
cannot touch that
Can't
particular
touch
person.
another cystic fibrosis patient.
Yeah, yes, that was an interesting detail. Though I would say the moment where Stella was selfish in the relationship was when she wouldn't take the lungs, or rather, I'd say that was like a mix of it, like
Oh,
selfless in
yeah.
the sense that she wouldn't take the chance to live longer.
If
No.
that meant that Will couldn't be with her.
Yeah, because he couldn't get a lung transplant. His lungs were too far gone. And also selfish because she wanted to stay with Will, but at the cost of herself. There she wasn't really thinking clearly. But
Yeah.
Will was like, no, you can't do that. You can't.
You
know,
can't just
die
throw your
for
life
me.
away, because I won't be in it. Like, take the lungs, Stella. And
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah, so, yeah, you can't be too selfless in a relationship where you're just gonna just die for someone. If you are gonna die for someone, it's gonna be like in the heat of a moment, like you're just pushing them out of the way, but
Yeah.
you can't just
Make a
you let yourself,
decision.
yeah, you can't just let yourself die so another person can live, like, well,
Yeah, and she probably wasn't in the right mind. She probably had hypothermia and things like that, and she wasn't thinking clearly, and Will knew this.
Now, Will, he had to make the toughest decision in the movie. When she didn't get the disease after the mouth-to-mouth, but the nurse said, just because she didn't get it doesn't mean she won't. Like,
Yes.
you are
In the
a
future.
risk to her life. And he realized that if she was going to have the best chance ever, he couldn't be with her.
And so he leaves. I mean, it's not like out of nowhere. He does say goodbye and things like that, but it's still, oh gosh, it's still sad.
But we're not saying that the relationship was all for nothing. Because even Will said that, I would not trade this month with you for anything.
Yes.
Like, because he knew her, he had finally the will to live as long as possible. I mean, obviously he wasn't going to live long, but he was going to make the most of what he had and not just totally give up on everything.
I know that there were concerns about, like, romanticizing cystic fibrosis and things like that. Now, I don't have that, so I'm not, the be-all, end-all, whatever. when it comes to things like that. It seems that people are kind of mixed. Like, there are some people who think that maybe it does kind of, like, show it in a much lighter thing than it really is. But, at the same time, it kind of gives CF, like, a spotlight that it hasn't really had at all. So, you know, you got your good and your bad. I mean, it's not a documentary. You have to, like, take some artistic license with those sorts of things.
And I think what it's trying to say is, you know, with any movie or book that has that sort of relationship, is that you can't really control who you fall in love with. And when when it ends up being someone that you can't have, then the situation becomes difficult and you have to make a lot of choices that, you know, can you can either work with it or work around it, or in this case, try to work around it, but eventually you're gonna have to let it go.
Yes, like a person that you love but you cannot physically touch, when, you know, even at the end Stella says that, like, touching is one of the most, like, what was it, like, one of the most human things we can do to connect with one another, or something like that.
Hug, holding hands, or even just a high five.
Yeah, so I thought that this was an interesting way to sort of explore that sort of theme. That's not like, you know, like a long distance relationship or whatever. Like, there is a legitimate reason why these two characters cannot physically touch each other.
Yeah, it was like they had to choose between life and love, because, you know, almost everyone wants to live, and love is like supposed to be the highlight of your life, whether it's romantic love or familial love or platonic love, like even Stella's best friend. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, the best friend, and I never got to hug him.
And it was so sad.
Yeah.
I thought it was another fake out, but no, it's just, he just up and died, and I don't really remember why. It was like a week ago when we saw this.
Yeah, but the ending, Stella's voiceover saying, so if there's someone you care about, you know, touch them, cherish them while you can, because life is short. You know, whether you have a life-threatening disease or not, you never know when the end is going to come, so just take advantage of the time you have now.
Take that risk. Yeah, yes. I can't really think of, like, you know, another person who would be more suited for that sort of moral than someone with a terminal disease like cystic fibrosis, where, again, the average lifespan is just like your early 20s, except for maybe a few outlier cases, and it's really sad.
Yeah, also, like I said, showing that a relationship goes beyond the physical aspects. It goes beyond looks, it goes beyond touching, though, yeah, even for asexual me, like holding hands and just cuddling it makes you warm and fuzzy, and that's the one aspect that they couldn't have, just that physical intimacy.
Yes, even if the gloves sort of got around that.
Yeah.
I thought that the little scavenger hunt that Stella made was really cute with the balloons.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, don't get us wrong. As emotional as this movie was, it did have its lighthearted moments.
Yes, but it was not in a, you know, cystic fibrosis isn't a big deal sort of way. It's just, you know, like, your life doesn't have to be completely humorless and completely dark and things like that. Which I can understand, you know, that's where Will was coming from.
Yeah, you need fluff.
Yes. Stella was all fluff. I think her YouTube channel might have been a little annoying. I was like, okay, we get it, you know, you're perky, you're...
Of course, I know nothing about running a YouTube channel at all.
Yeah, what kind of person does things on the internet?
Yeah, like spends all their time making a whole bunch of pony videos and, fairy tale podcasts. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
that will come into play later. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we cannot really compare it to the book. But what I do know is that they meet sometime later in the future, and Will is a little bit sicker, and it's implied that he will pass away soon. And that's kind of what they did here, but apparently they filmed 4 different endings. One was a happy ending, one was a sad ending, and 2 were bittersweet. So I'm guessing the one that they used here was one of the bittersweet endings, but maybe it'll be like a special feature on the DVD or something.
Yeah, I will say it seems like the happy ending would have been, the way this film is set up, kind of unlikely.
Yeah, it would have been.
What would it have been? They're just automatically cured, like, unless you got the fairy godmother or something. I don't see how that would have happened. Like, but it wasn't that kind of movie.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been able to end any other way.
Yeah, I mean, the book was more open-ended. Like, maybe they would have still, like, at least video chatted and stayed friends. But
Yeah.
no, like, I think Will knew that even just being in not physical contact would have been hard for both of them. So it was best to just let it go right now.
Yeah, and just kind of leave things be as they are in there. Yeah.
So sad.
As sad as yes.
Although there were, like we were saying, Cole Sprouse did have some pretty witty lines. Like
Yes.
when they first meet, and Stella is not paying attention to him. Just he
She's
just
like
goes,
looking at the babies, like I don't care.
and he just goes, "You're Dab."
And then he puts on his Tokyo Ghoul mask. Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah.
He's so good at that sort of like dry, sarcastic humor. I thought it would get old really fast, but for me
Yeah.
it didn't.
Yeah, he's gone from playing the adorable nerd to this.
Still being a nerd, but more sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he's got that Tokyo Ghoul mask.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's Jughead. Like, geez, Pop, you know, Friday the 13th on us. The darkness.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in. Have you ever seen me without this hat? That's stupid. Wait, no, that's weird. Like, okay, edgelord.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. That show. I can't.
Yeah, and the acting was really good.
Yes.
Aside from the the characters, there was also the nurse that
I
was
loved
very
her.
entertaining, and
Yeah, you gotta
she
have
was a
the
great
sassy black nurse. I was waiting for her to say, "Oh hell no," and she did.
it was a
I was
fitting
like,
moment
waiting
to say,
for it.
"Oh hell no!"
When they were like sneaking back to their rooms or something.
Or was it when he was sneaking the operating room? Well, at some point where she realized they were both
Yeah.
in their rooms. Like, oh no. But no, don't get us wrong. She wasn't there for comic relief. She was a very strong character.
She's very firm.
Yeah, she cared about her patients a lot. And
Yes.
sometimes, would just like leave the medicines in there with them and trust them to take their medication. But also, she didn't want them to get hurt, and so sometimes she had to be firm. Like, she cared about Stella and Will, but she could not let them enter this relationship because she had actually done this before with 2 other patients who fell in love, and let them break the rules. And what had happened? They both died, and she didn't want that on her conscience again. She's not a bad person, even though she's trying to drive the wedge between Stella and Will. It's because she actually cares.
Yeah, she's not being like a hard ass for no reason. She has a reason.
But she is torn between
It's like, I'm
caring
doing my
about
job.
Yeah,
Yes.
she is torn between caring about them and wanting to protect them, and wanting to be happy, wanting them safe.
Yes. Do you have any final thoughts that I can't really think of any?
Well, yeah, it was a very emotional movie, very beautiful, had great acting, and had the nice moral of make the most of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's very short. I'd say if I give this a rating, I give it a 3
How many stars out of 5?
out of 2.
3 out of 2 stars?
Yep,
Okay.
it was that good.
You get 3 Machiavellian stars. I'd give it like maybe a 4 out of 5 ish. Like
4 out of 5.
like a B, like a high B, you know.
Okay, what was the matter? You were crying like crazy at the
Yes,
end.
I was. No, it's a really good movie. I recommend it.
Alright, so you should also check out my YouTube channel, Disney Fanatic 2364. I make a lot of My Little Pony videos. I also make a podcast reviewing fairy tales.
And there's merch.
Yeah, as you can see by the shirt I'm wearing.
Yes. And since this is a brand new YouTube channel, I will be making a Patreon sometime so you can help support the show, help it grow, help us get more things, like recording equipment and things like that. We can also give out little, little prizes or little trinkets and as a thanks for helping and supporting the channel.
I already have a Patreon for my podcast.
Yes.
Check it out.
Check it out. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. So,
Yeah, I think we're Gucci.
So we'll see you next time on Lit or Miss It.
Yes. Thanks for watching.